What if I told you that the Avengers won't just lose, they'll forget they ever were Avengers? What if Dr. Doom doesn't just defeat Earth's mightiest heroes, but rewrites reality so they never knew they existed as heroes at all? And what if all of this has already been set in motion, through leaks no one was supposed to see? Because this isn't just another theory, it's a carefully connected puzzle built from scattered pieces across multiversal leaks, insider scoops, Marvel whispers, and even real cast teases. This story isn't only about Dr. Doom destroying the multiverse, it's about what comes after destruction: control, amnesia, and submission. And just when you think it's too late, familiar faces, or variants of them, will rise in unexpected ways. A Captain America you've never seen before, a Wanda from a Magneto-ruled universe, a Spider-Man whose fourth film was supposed to come out over a decade ago. Today's video isn't just a breakdown, it's a full-scale multiversal storytelling experience. So sit back, because what's about to unfold could very well be Marvel's darkest, boldest saga yet: Avengers Doomsday. Let's start at the beginning, not of time, but of forgetting. It starts in the Void. No, not just the TVA-style Void from Loki. This void is deeper, darker, a place between broken timelines and discarded possibilities. According to a recent leak that insiders like James Mack have started whispering about, Avengers Doomsday opens not with the Earth in danger, but with a forgotten hero already trapped, a version of Bucky Barnes, not as the Winter Soldier, not as Steve's sidekick, but as Captain America. In this alternate universe, Steve Rogers was never chosen. The military never experimented on him. No super serum, no shield. Instead, Bucky was the one they selected. He was given the serum, he led the charge, and in his universe, he became the symbol of hope and justice. A soldier turned hero, but one forged in a different fire. But something happened, something that led this Bucky Cap to become stranded in the Void, a place outside time, outside memory. And if that leak is to be believed, this is no accident. It's part of Doom's plan, and it's only just beginning. Now imagine for a second, you're Dr. Doom, a man who has never believed in compromise, who sees himself not as a villain, but as the only one worthy to control the chaos. After Kang's failure to maintain order in the multiverse, there's a vacuum of power. Who better to seize it than the ruler of Latveria, the man with the genius of Stark, the mysticism of Strange, and the ruthlessness of Thanos? But Doom doesn't want balance, he wants obedience. And to get it, he doesn't just destroy worlds, he erases memories. One of the most chilling details in this leak is that at the end of Avengers Doomsday, Dr. Doom succeeds, not in just destroying the multiverse, but in wiping the minds of every surviving hero. They forget their missions, their identities, even their friendships. When the dust settles, they awaken in a place called Battleworld, Doom's own creation, a patchwork world made of broken universes stitched together by force. And in this world, Doom isn't just ruler, he's a god, the God Emperor. Here's the terrifying part: the heroes serve him, not out of fear, but because they don't remember not serving him. Think about that. Imagine Thor leading the Thor Corps, patrolling Doom's cities. Imagine Strange as the Sorcerer Sheriff, loyal to the Emperor's law. Imagine Peter Parker without memory of May, MJ, Ned, just a masked enforcer in a web-patterned uniform, unknowingly protecting the man who shattered his world. But wait, not everyone forgets. According to the same leak, a few characters resist Doom's mental wipe. They retain fragments, glimpses, nightmares of who they used to be. And among these are key survivors: Reed Richards, a version of Black Panther not from 616, but from a different Earth entirely, possibly even T'Challa or someone else from the Panther lineage. And it's this group, the last sparks of memory, who might be the only ones capable of rising against Doom in Secret Wars. But we'll get to that rebellion later, because first, we need to talk about Wanda. Elizabeth Olsen recently said in an interview that Wanda Maximoff means more to her than fans know, that she's not done playing this character. She hinted she'd return, but not as the Wanda we knew. The leaks agree. The Wanda coming back isn't our Wanda. The 616 Wanda, the one who died in Multiverse of Madness, is gone. But her variant, from a universe where Magneto is her father and she's raised under his ideology, is stepping in. This Wanda isn't just powerful, she's been taught that mutants should rule, that humans are inferior, and that power isn't to be hidden but embraced. Can you imagine the chaos when this Wanda meets Doom? Two rulers, two gods, each believing they know best. But here's the twist: they won't be enemies, yet. Doom sees her as a threat, but also a potential ally or pawn. If Wanda serves him, her power becomes a weapon of enforcement. If she rebels, she becomes a crack in his empire. Meanwhile, behind all of this, something wild is brewing. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4. Now, I know what you're thinking. That movie was canceled over a decade ago. And you're right. But recent buzz has reignited rumors that some version of Tobey's Peter Parker, older, wiser, and now a parent with MJ, could appear in Doomsday or Secret Wars. Not for nostalgia, not just as a cameo, but as an integral part of the emotional weight. Think about it. We already saw in No Way Home that Tobey's Spidey still carries the burden of responsibility. Imagine him returning in a world where everything he knew is gone, where even his memories of Uncle Ben are faint whispers. But something inside him tells him he's not supposed to serve Doom. Something itches, like a spider sense that goes deeper than danger. Imagine Tobey's Spider-Man being the first one to crack, to disobey, to remember. Back to the void, because that's where everything begins and ends. Bucky Cap isn't just there as a forgotten soldier. He's a breadcrumb, a memory Doom couldn't erase fully, a glitch in the plan. And somehow he starts connecting with others across the void, not directly, but through moments, through emotions, through shared nightmares. The multiverse is cracked, but it's not silent. And just like in Endgame, where Scott Lang emerged from the quantum realm to spark hope, in Doomsday, it may be Bucky Cap who becomes the first whisper of rebellion, the one who never drank Doom's Kool-Aid. But he's not alone. Here's the biggest mindbender. Wanda, Magneto's daughter Wanda, may be the key to Doom's fall, or his rise, depending on who gets to her first. And here's something that just fits too perfectly to be coincidence. In House of M, Wanda whispered, "No more mutants," rewriting reality on a massive scale. What if in Doomsday it's the opposite? What if she says something like, "No more gods"? What if she sees through Doom's facade and decides to unmake his world the same way she once unmade mutants? But not yet. We're not there yet. We're still in the build-up. The heroes are gone. The worlds are merged. Doom sits on his throne, cloaked in victory. The people cheer. The heroes kneel. And for the first time in the MCU, the villain doesn't just win. He convinces everyone he's the hero. But cracks are forming. A young girl in Battleworld dreams of vibranium. She doesn't know why. A man in blue writes equations he can't remember learning. A witch sees her father in flashes, a man with white hair and a helmet of metal. A web-slinger feels the weight of loss and doesn't know why it hurts so much. And somewhere in a dark corner of this patchwork world, someone remembers everything and is ready to fight. But that is where we'll pick up next. The dreams were spreading. They started as flickers, stray images that felt more like déjà vu than memory. A shield, a hammer, a red cape caught in lightning. A woman's voice saying, "We're the ones who keep them safe." A boy calling out for Aunt May. These weren't dreams born of imagination. They were echoes. Fragments of lives forgotten. Echoes of a time before Battleworld. Dr. Doom had designed Battleworld with precision. Each zone, each city, each society was carved from the husks of dead universes. There were no Avengers here, no multiverse, only order, only Doom. But the mind, even when bent by godlike force, finds a way to remember what it needs to survive. Reed Richards was the first to notice the anomalies. Not our Reed, not 616's. This was a version pulled from a universe where the Fantastic Four disbanded after failing to stop Galactus. A man burdened by failure, now living as a humble engineer in Doom City, but with a mind that refused to forget. His hands trembled every time he passed a mirror, not because of fear, but because he didn't recognize the reflection. Something felt missing. Something was wrong. Then came the notes, scribbled equations that defied the laws of Battleworld's physics. Strings of variables that didn't make sense until they started mapping. Not maps of cities, but paths. Routes through dimensions that weren't supposed to exist anymore. Reed wasn't remembering, he was rebuilding. And he wasn't the only one. In the outer territories of Battleworld, beyond the reach of Doom's sentinels, a warrior was rising. He didn't speak much. He wore no crown, no title. But the people called him the Panther, a ghost from a kingdom that no longer existed. He didn't match the face on any of Doom's registry files. His tech, made of an unidentifiable metal, vibrated with power that even Doom's enforcers couldn't trace. This Black Panther wasn't Shuri. He wasn't T'Challa. He was something new. A panther from a world where Wakanda ruled the stars. And he remembered it all. Together, Reed and the Panther began seeking others. Whisperers, dreamers, people who felt the edges of their erased pasts. And one of the first names that came up, again and again, was Wanda. But which Wanda? In the capital citadel, Wanda Maximoff sat in silence. Not 616's Wanda, but a variant raised under Magneto's shadow. She had grown up believing in mutant supremacy, in power without apology. And now she served Doom, or at least appeared to. But in her dreams, she saw two boys calling her mother. She saw a robot who loved her. She saw destruction and redemption. And then she saw fire. One night, after a silent council meeting with Doom, she dreamed of a burning sky, of universes collapsing, of a man in iron armor standing alone as worlds turned to ash. She woke up breathless, not from fear, from recognition, because she had seen that man before. Not Doom, Stark. The name shattered something inside her. That same week, Doom increased security in the central districts, not because of an attack, but because a name had been written in the sky. Not by anyone alive, just there, as if the world itself remembered. The name? Peter. No one knew who Peter was, but some wept when they saw it. Others clutched at their chest. Wanda stared at it for hours. And far away, in a ruined sector of Battleworld, an old man with a limp and a fading costume stood beside an empty house. In his hand, a broken camera. On his wrist, a faded web shooter. He didn't know who he was, but the name Peter made him tremble. Tobey's Spider-Man, older, worn, but not yet gone, had returned. Not by portal, not by choice, but as part of Battleworld's patchwork. And now, his memories were coming back. Slowly. It started with pain, then names, then the overwhelming grief of remembering Uncle Ben, MJ, the boy he couldn't save. Then the moment he realized, I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't my world. This isn't right. He wasn't alone long. Reed found him. Reed explained the truth. Not all of it, just enough. Battleworld was built on lies. The past wasn't erased. It was suppressed. And Doom's grip was starting to slip. Across zones, others were waking up too. Jane Foster, in a world where she had never lifted Mjolnir, began hearing thunder in her sleep. Sam Wilson, serving as a peacekeeper in one of Doom's cities, started seeing a red, white, and blue shield in his dreams. Strange symbols, vibranium wings, a name, Steve. But Steve Rogers was gone. At least, that Steve. Because now, deep within the void, the remnants of forgotten timelines, someone was stirring. Bucky Barnes. The Bucky Cap variant Doom had imprisoned during the early days of his rise, a wild card, a memory that couldn't be controlled, had spent years in isolation. But time didn't flow normally in the void. What felt like years there had only been months in Battleworld. And now, the void itself was cracking. Not from outside, from within. Every time a hero remembered their past, every time someone whispered a name like Tony, Natasha, or Bruce, the multiverse rippled. Battleworld's stability was tied to Doom's illusion. And illusions only hold if everyone believes. Wanda began her rebellion in silence. She didn't confront Doom. She didn't run. She listened. She watched. And finally, she found a message scrawled into the wall of her quarters. Written in her own handwriting, though she had no memory of doing so. It said, "He's not a god. You were never his." That was the moment it clicked. The whispers, the dreams, the strange déjà vu. Doom hadn't created Battleworld. He had stolen it. The fragments were real. The memories weren't lies. The Avengers had lived, fought, won, lost, and she had been one of them. But who else remembered? Turns out more than anyone expected, because Doom, in his arrogance, had overlooked one crucial thing. Children remember pain. Billy and Tommy, her sons, or variants of them, existed somewhere in Battleworld. Not as her children, not even with the same names, but they carried a spark, and it was calling to her. As Wanda searched for them, Reed, Panther, and Peter began forming a secret network, using portals, hidden tunnels, long-range psychic tech scavenged from shattered timelines. They weren't planning a war, not yet, just a trigger, a way to force memory back into those who had lost it. And then, Bucky returned. He didn't escape, he was released, through a rip that opened in the void. No one opened it, it just appeared. And when he stepped through into Battleworld, everything changed. Because Bucky didn't just remember his own past, he remembered everyone's. Whether it was Doom's error or something else, Bucky emerged with complete clarity. He remembered Rogers, Stark, Wakanda, Sokovia, Thanos. He remembered Endgame. And he knew Doom had replaced one snap with another, not one that turned bodies to dust, but one that turned memories to fog. And the moment he found Wanda, the moment she touched his mind and saw what he saw, the dam broke. The truth spread like fire, like lightning. One by one, heroes woke up. Carol Danvers, Vision, Yelena, Clint, a variant of Tony Stark pulled from an earlier timeline. Scott Lang, Hope, even a young version of Jean Grey who had been hiding her powers in fear. And with them, so did rage. But it wasn't blind fury, it was calculated. The rebellion wasn't about revenge, it was about reminding the multiverse of the truth. And as the heroes gathered, Wanda made a terrifying discovery. Doom hadn't just erased their memories, he had stolen them, stored them, like trophies, like weapons. In a chamber beneath his throne room sat a vault. Inside were glowing orbs, each pulsing with raw memory. Faces, voices, stories. The entirety of MCU history, locked away like secrets no one was allowed to know. Wanda opened the vault. She didn't take the memories, she released them. And Battleworld, built on lies, began to remember. But Doom saw it coming. As the multiverse awakened, Doom activated his contingency. He had foreseen rebellion. He had engineered it. Because Doom wasn't afraid of war, he welcomed it. Because in war, he believed he could prove once and for all that he was the one true ruler of reality. And so he summoned his Avengers, the Doom Guard. Corrupted variants, twisted versions of Thor, of Strange, even of Hulk. Heroes pulled from timelines where they had failed and offered power in exchange for loyalty. And now the final act looms. The real Avengers from across time, across variants, across fragments, versus Doom's elite. One side fights for freedom, the other for control. But in the center of it all, one person holds the key. Not Wanda, not Reed, not even Bucky. It's someone Doom never saw coming. Someone the universe itself has been whispering about. Because the next Captain America isn't who you think it is. When the skies of Battleworld turned blood red, the people looked up, not in fear, but in recognition. These skies had burned before. These ruins had been built and rebuilt. These gods had risen and fallen, and somehow they had forgotten it all. But not anymore. The vault of stolen memories had been opened. The illusions were cracking. And deep within the heart of the multiversal storm, one final truth was rising. Dr. Doom wasn't the god he believed himself to be. But he had prepared for this moment. As his false utopia fractured, Doom stood atop his throne in the Citadel Sanctum, surrounded by his Doom Guard, twisted reflections of the heroes who once saved the universe. A Thor who had forsaken Mjolnir for a cursed blade. A Sorcerer Supreme whose hands never healed. A Gamma-infused Steve Rogers whose heart had rotted from power. All of them under Doom's command, and each of them a symbol of what could have gone wrong, and now had. But while Doom built armies, the Avengers, the real ones, built hope. Led by Reed Richards, the resistance was no longer a secret. Wanda's powers had awakened variants across zones. Old friends reunited and forgotten legends returned. The multiverse was healing, and with it, the spark that had once defined Earth's mightiest heroes was roaring back to life. And at the center of that spark was someone Doom had locked away in the void long ago. Someone whose return had tilted the scales. Bucky Barnes, the Captain America of a world without Steve Rogers, now stood on the front lines. Not as a soldier of war, but a symbol, a version of Cap who had never been given the serum, but had earned the shield anyway. A man forged by loss, not legacy. And behind him, heroes from every shattered timeline, ready to remind Doom of the one thing he feared most, human will. But Doom didn't tremble. He smiled. Because for all their bravery, Doom believed they had still misunderstood him. He didn't erase their memories to control them. He did it because he had to, because he had seen what they couldn't. That even in victory, the multiverse only ever broke further. Kang, Ultron, Thanos, incursions. No matter what heroes did, the story ended the same way, in ashes. So Doom made a choice. He reset the narrative. His Battleworld wasn't tyranny, it was salvation. But salvation built on stolen minds is still slavery. The battle began like thunder. Carol Danvers lit the skies with Nova Force fury. Sam Wilson, newly awakened, soared beside her with a vibranium-winged strike force. Jean Grey, unleashed for the first time, warped the skies into psionic chaos. And Tobey Maguire's Peter, now fully aware, swung through the ruins with the grace of a legend reborn. But even among this chaos, one figure marched forward without hesitation. Wanda Maximoff. The Scarlet Witch had seen too many timelines collapse. She had lost too much. Her children, her love, her own sanity. But now, she had purpose, not just revenge. She had clarity. Doom may have cracked reality to build his Battleworld, but Wanda had walked through hell and emerged whole. And now, she stood before the self-declared god, her eyes burning not with rage, but with truth. Your time's up, Victor. But Doom was ready. He raised his gauntlet, not powered by the Infinity Stones, but something deeper. A core of multiversal essence, refined from the dead timelines he had consumed. With a gesture, he rewrote gravity itself, turning the battlefield into a storm of collapsing matter. And yet, the Avengers advanced. Because here's the thing about memory. Once it returns, it cannot be silenced. Vision, restored and whole, phased through the chaos to strike at Doom's generators. Strange, our Strange, appeared through a ripple in time, having locked himself in the mirror dimension since the first incursion. Even Loki, a version redeemed after seeing his own future, whispered through the cracks of Doom's armor with illusions that even Doom couldn't unravel. And in the middle of it all, a shield flew. Not Steve's, Bucky's. Forged from vibranium, laced with time-threaded metal salvaged from the void, the shield carried a spark that defied Doom's code. It didn't just reflect energy, it absorbed memory. Every throw awakened someone else. Every strike against the ground pulled more of Battleworld into focus. And with one final strike, Bucky embedded the shield at the foot of Doom's throne and shouted, "You wanted to be the last word." But we remember everything. But Doom still held the failsafe, the heart of Battleworld, a device that would let him erase everything and rebuild again from scratch. A clean multiverse. No Avengers, no rebellion, just Doom. He reached for it, and someone stopped him. Not Wanda, not Reed, not Peter. A small hand grabbed his wrist. A boy, Billy, and behind him, Tommy. Not fully formed, not fully real, but alive enough to stand. Echoes given shape by Wanda's will. "You're not our father," Billy said, "and you'll never be our god," Tommy finished. And in that moment, Doom hesitated. That was all Wanda needed. She stepped forward, hands glowing with chaos magic. Yes, chaos, but not madness. Order within chaos. Reality itself bent toward her, not in fear, but in balance. And with one whisper, "No more gods," she shattered the failsafe. The heart of Battleworld imploded. The stolen fragments of the multiverse surged outward. Doom screamed, not in defeat, but in realization, that all his power, all his control, had never truly made him greater. It had made him small. Because where gods build empires, heroes build legacies. And now, the multiverse was free. The battle ended with silence. Not the silence of death, the silence of relief. Across the zones, people stopped, looked at their hands, looked at each other, and remembered. Children hugged parents they didn't know they'd lost. Heroes stood beside variants of themselves and didn't flinch. Villains woke from their rewritten roles and wept. Wanda knelt beside her boys. Peter, older, weathered, quietly turned and walked back into the shadows. No applause, no farewell. Just peace. Reed returned to his calculations, not to control, but to guide. A new council of Reeds would rise, one that served the multiverse, not themselves. And Bucky? He stood at the ruins of the throne and picked up his shield, not as a soldier, not as a replacement, but as Captain America. In a world where Steve never got the serum, he did the work anyway, and now the multiverse would know his name. But peace, as always, would not last forever, because just as the worlds realigned, a ripple moved across the stars. From deep space, from a place untouched by Doom's hand. A signal, a flare, not a threat, a call. Help us. Earth 982, world breach. Tony Stark terminated. Galactus unchained. The camera pans across the multiverse. Worlds flicker, some dark, some bright, all connected. And in one of them, a child sits in a workshop. He looks up at a glowing arc reactor, half-built, and behind him, a woman in a red cloak. "You ready to build something that matters?" she asks. He nods. His name? Morgan Stark. The legacy never ends. So, if that theory made your jaw drop even a little, you know what to do. Hit that like button, share this video with your multiversal besties, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of this ever-expanding Marvel madness.